Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Football with. And in this episode, we have an MBE with us to talk about football. Yes, you guessed that right. Steve Harmison is the guest for us in this episode. Well, let me tell you before that this video was shot at the mid-season in January, so most of the data might be factually incorrect because we were talking about Newcastle. We wanted to know where it would finish, but now since the season has ended, let me take you back to that time and let's hear from Steve Harmison what are his views about Newcastle and how did he go on to become a cricketer, being a football lover. So let's directly hear from him. Alright guys, we over here have an MBE for the first time on our channel. Steve Harmison is over here for our second episode in Let's Talk Football with. Hi Steve, how are you? It's a huge honor to have you on our channel.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about football. I've been talking about cricket all day, so my first passion and probably my only passion has been football. I would say adult life, but I think all my actual life on this planet has majority of the time the ball's been at my feet.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I know that you have been playing cricket and you have played like 63 test games, 58 ODIs and a couple of T20s as well. But we are not going to talk about that shy boy from the north. We're actually going to talk about football over here. So we all know that you are a huge Newcastle United fan. And you're a hardcore fan of Newcastle United, but you started your career as a cricketer, but we know that you love football as well. So how that happened? How did you shift from football to go follow cricket as a career?
As a junior, I was always into football. I had no interest in playing cricket whatsoever. Cricket was just something I played between the months of end of May, all of June, the majority of July, but then once football started at the end of July and then into August, cricket stopped and I didn't really play. And I think my body I was a lot bigger as a junior than a lot of the young little kids, so I stood out. But then at 15, 16, other kids grew to the same height and their abilities and everybody matched up. And I'll always say that about sport. With kids, don't judge them until they get to sort of through their sort of into their sort of just before adult age, because that's when everybody gets caught up. And it certainly caught up with me. I wasn't as good or fast as what other kids were by the time I got to 15, 16. And then I played cricket against Durham for Northumberland in a 16s game, and one of the coaches came round and said, well, where are you getting him from? And I said, well, we're lucky to have him because he never plays cricket. He's always playing football. So that's how I fell into cricket. But football was always my first love. I was at Newcastle United. I was on the first intake of the School of Excellence under Peter Kirkley and Stan Nixon at the age of 11. It was the first year Newcastle had it. I think that was around about 1989, 1990. Wow. And then I was still there until I was about 15, 16. So all told, I love the club, always have done. I'd love to have played for the club, but wasn't meant to be. But football will still always be my first love. That's wonderful to hear. We also know that one thing that you had a little bit of a training spell with Newcastle United, and you were helped by Paul Winsper and Sir Bobby Robson. You trained over there at Newcastle United, and then you went to play cricket again, and you had like a wonderful performance. Up from that, how did that happen? What changed? What was the experience over there to train at Newcastle United? Well, I remember my England debut, and everything went okay. I went to Australia for the first time, my first overseas tour as a senior cricketer. It was an Ashes tour, tough tour against the best ever, in my opinion. I'm not even going to go through the names because I'll end up naming 13 or 14 players. But they were that good, Australia, and then come back. I went to Bangladesh, got man of the match on the first test match. Come play in Chittagong. I went home and I didn't go to Sri Lanka at the end of 2003. And there was a horrendous article wrote by a former cricketer in one of the papers over here. And it wasn't very nice. It was personal. And whether it was given by former players that were saying I didn't want to play, I wasn't fit enough, my attitude wasn't great. I didn't enjoy the article. And you mentioned two names there, Paul Winsper and Sir Bobby Robson. Yeah. Paul Winsper, to put some education on it, Paul Winsper was a fitness coach at Durham Cricket Club for about 4 months. And Newcastle were training at Chesley Street, where the cricket is in the same area.
Oh, all right.
And what happened was word had got across that we had this fitness coach who was one of the best in the game. He's now in America. He's one of the leading fitness coaches in America. And within 3-4 months, Newcastle snapped him up, took him.
Yeah.
But he had already sort of put me back together once because I had a few growing troubles.
Yeah.
And he Bobby Robson read the article. He read the article and he called me out of the blue and said, look, you fancy coming into Newcastle? So I went into the training ground and he said to me, he said, the managers read the article. He loves his cricket. So Bobby loved his cricket. A great man to talk cricket with. He said, if you want to train here, you can. So we kept it quiet before I got picked for the West Indies trip. Kept it quiet. I trained there for 8.5 weeks. And so Bobby Robson was magnificent, absolutely brilliant. First day he got me, took me into the gym, and he just said, talked about wanting to perform for England. Did he believe the article was true? I said, no, it was a load of nonsense. He said, well, you can come in here as long as you want, whenever you want, but you stick to our program, which is you eat first thing in the morning with the players, you eat at lunchtime with the players, you train like these lads would train with Paul, and we'll get you back fit and get you back on track. And I was amazed. There's this great man who had managed England to the World Cup semi-final, Barcelona to European trophies. Yeah. And he's just an amazing human being, Sir Bobby Robson. And he took me into the gym and he pointed out Alan Shearer, Gary Speed, Shea Given, Steve Harper, James Milner, and said, look, you follow what they do for the next 8 weeks and you will be an international sportsman. But he did, on the other hand, look at the likes of Craig Bellamy, Jermaine Janus, Kieran Dyer, Titus Bramble. He says, you go anywhere near them and you'll be out the door. He says, I can't get rid of them. He says, but I can get rid of you. In tongue-in-cheek, but it was typical Sir Bobby. And I spent 8.5 weeks there and nobody knew I was there. Not even England knew I was there. And by the time I got to the West Indies, it was the fittest I'd ever been. It was the most disciplined I'd ever been. Within, I think, 12 months, I was ranked the best bowler in the world. So I've got a lot to be thankful for that man, Sir Bobby Robson and Paul Winsper.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that is some story. I just wanted to know, for me, I don't actually know what are the fitness regimes and the trainings that happen in cricket. Are they very different from what we do in football?
A lot of my stuff was training with the injured players. So it was a lot of sort of gym-based training, a lot of speed training. Paul Winsper was of the opinion that to make sure the bowling action was strong, you had to be quick and explosive between taking off at the end of your run-up and letting go of the ball. So it was a lot of intense training that way and making sure that the middle part of your body was as strong as it possibly could be. And we worked on a program like that, and I think the results shone through. So, but a lot of players had a lot of different. That was the beauty about Paul Winsper. He was a fantastic man, great coach, former Marine. So he was a hard man, and he had the respect of all the players because he treated them differently. He didn't have 22 footballers with 22 different. He had 22 different subjects with different body shapes, different body weights, strengths and weaknesses in different areas. And his plan for the individual was what made him so good. And that's why the players bought into everything that he did. And there's no surprise at the time, Newcastle were playing Champions League on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We're playing Saturday afternoons or Sunday afternoons. And they were performing to a fitness level, which, very few of their players got injured. And that was largely down to, the way Paul did his job.
But we know one thing, that the ownership of Newcastle United has just changed, and the previous owners, I'm pretty sure that the fans didn't support that much, and there have been a few acquisitions about some paid media reviews and things. But how happy are you about the new ownership? Does it excite you as a fan?
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I was at the game. I've been at the games. Obviously, I missed the game when I was in the Caribbean with the one-day internationals, but it's gone back 20 years. It has. I sat next to, name drop here, I sat next to John Beresford on Sunday at the Aston Villa game. Sat with him. I wasn't supposed to go to the game. I wasn't going to go to the game. I was supposed to play golf, but it rained in the morning. So, because I hadn't played golf for a while, so I wanted to play golf, try and cash in on the 1 day of decent weather, but forecast changed. So I rang Bez up and I said, any chance you can sort of look after me? So I sat next to him for the whole game, and we were in awe of what this Newcastle fans can do. It just shows you what a change has happened. The mindset of the club. It's not. There's one or two new players, but it's not. It's not a household change of players. But the mindset of the supporters is ridiculous. And yes, I think Steve Bruce possibly could have been. He would have been criticised if he brought Chris Wood in, Matt Target in, and one or two more.
Bruno Guimaraes. That's been great signings.
You're great signings, but I think the supporters now they do believe in Eddie Howe, and Eddie Howe has been a breath of fresh air. Eddie Howe's been brilliant. He's been absolutely fantastic. He's got Newcastle playing the front foot going forward. But at 5 minutes to kick off, when the players come out, it's like being back in the Shearer days, the Keegan days, and everything that comes with it. And both myself and John Beresford were sitting, and it was like, we've gone back 20 years here. We've gone back 20 years. And that's a great feeling. And I've said it millions of times during my job on Talk Sport, that fans will come, fans of the club will always be there. Players will come and go, owners will come and go, managers will come and go. Good times, bad times will always come and go. But do not sort of take the liberty with the supporters, because the supporters are what will always be there. The core part will be there. And they have been there for 14 years. They've been there, but not as obviously as positive vocal as what they have been in the last 3 months. And for me, it's a start of something I think is going to be very, very special.
Exactly. Very well put. Right now, when you look at the table, they are out of that relegation zone. Eddie Howe has been doing some good job. Trippier has been scoring some delightful free kicks, but he is injured now, sadly. But we hope that he'll come back soon, because he's such a vital cog in that team as a leader. But I just want to know from you as a fan, where do you see this Newcastle team in the next 5 years? Because our viewers would also like to know how this whole takeover things work, because there is a huge cash influx coming into the team. Same happened with Manchester City, and look at them now. They are ruling everything. So can we expect the same thing, or what do we expect in the next 5 years, say, at Newcastle United?
I think you have to dream as a Newcastle fan. I think the reality is you hope that the blueprint is put in place and the right people come in at the right time to take the club forward. I think Newcastle have made an unbelievable signing in Dan Ashford from Brighton, the technical director of what was the England football team before, while Gareth Southgate was in the 2021s and then into England. I think that signing for me is as good a signing Newcastle have made. Dan Ashford could be a better signing than Kieran Trippier. He really could in the Trippier in the short term, but Dan Ashworth in the long term, if he gets his way and does his job the way he's done it in the past for other organisations, I think underneath Newcastle United's first team, it could be building into something nice and something special. And then it comes with financial resources that they've got. Well, they've got more money than anybody else in the world, so everybody seems to be saying. So you've got to spend it wisely, spend it right, and if they do that, well, the one thing that will never, ever change, 52,000 people will be in a stadium every single Saturday, while the club is positive and trying to make the best of Newcastle United and give back to the supporters, then the Newcastle fans will support them on any decision that has been made. So I think in 5 years, hopefully, they're challenging in the top 4. And then, top 6, top 4. And then from there, you hope that, year upon year, Newcastle get better, and if they do that, like Man City did, there'll be a challenge for the top sides, and not only in the country and in Europe.
In Europe, absolutely true. That's what we believe that might happen. There's one fun question that I just want to ask you. If you were the manager, and let's say that you are given the choice to sign one player in world football for your Newcastle team, just for fun, who would that guy be?
You know what? It's not the most fashionable name. I wouldn't say it's the Mbappes or the Neymars or anything like that. I'd do anything to sign the England captain. I'd do anything to sign Harry Kane.
Wow.
I would. I'd sign Harry Kane. If I had a chance to sign any player, I'd tell Harry Kane. I'd take Alan Shearer with me and say to Harry Kane, you've got a chance of breaking this great man's record in this great man's shirt, in this great man's stadium. And he would be the one player, I think, if I was Newcastle, he never misses games. Yes, he's gone through a little bit of a lean patch, but I think mentally and physically he must be tired because he hasn't had a break. He'd be the one player. You know, you talk, you can go Lewandowski, you can go Mbappe, Neymar, you can throw anybody you want at me. But Harry Kane is a proven Premier League goal scorer, and I'd love to see him in a number 9 shirt.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that. I was actually thinking that you would be going for someone like Haaland, Mbappe, anyone like that. But that's a very good pick. I'm really happy that people know what actually Harry Kane stands for. He's a wonderful striker. Like you said, that he has gone through a rough patch. Conte is trying to get the best out of him. Oh wow, that would be a very good signing for Newcastle United. Let's see if that would happen. He was itching to have a move to Manchester City just this summer, but Spurs managed to get a hold of him. All right. Just few more couple of questions for you. You have been appointed as the joint manager of Ashington FC. How was that love affair? How did it begin?
Well, all my football has been non-league football. I think the purest football in the world is non-league football. It's brilliant. It is. It's brilliant. I'd watch non-league football. I'm a 5 handicapper golfer. I'd play links golf all my life. I love playing golf on the seaside. But non-league football is one for me. And I used to play for Ashton. I used to play for them before I started playing for Durham. I've always watched non-league football. Brothers played at standard. Dad played at that standard. So I knew it. And obviously it was the hometown club, and a friend of mine resigned as manager. There was a vacancy there, and I was in and around the club anyway. And it was a right fit just to sort of try and take it on at the time. I loved every minute of it. You know, we had over the course of the sort of 3 seasons that we covered. It was nice. I put my life on hold for it a little bit too much. And my life stood still, but it got us away from being a cricketer, because when I left the game of cricket, I resented the cricket. I hated cricket. I really did. I resented cricket. I felt as though I didn't want to be talking to people in cricket or had anything to do with the game. And that seemed to channel in a different avenue. And then once I'd finished with the football, I decided that there was a few political decisions going on at the club. The chairman had advanced himself into politics in a certain way, which I wasn't really happy about what things were going on at the club. So I decided that enough was enough. And I went back into cricket at the time when I loved the game, but the non-league football was brilliant. I had both my brothers playing for me, who were seasoned non-league campaigners, seasoned non-league characters. And I had some good lads and good players, and we had a good bunch. Didn't have the greatest sort of financial resources. We had a good laugh and a good time. I had a great management team with me, my best mates. So we went on a little journey, had a good bit of fun. And when players were going to work from 7 in the morning till 12 till 12 lunchtime, and then coming at 1:30 to get themselves ready to play football at 3 o'clock, or they were coming at 6:30, playing at 7:30, finishing at 9:30, and then starting work at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night and doing a full night shift. Wow. Well, they were going to do that for me. I was always going to try and do everything I possibly could for them. So that's why non-league football is the purest football, because people actually enjoy, that's where they enjoy playing. Premiership footballers and a lot of big stars play for money. They don't exactly enjoy playing football. They're just very good at it. I could probably say the same thing about cricket for me. I loved playing it. I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I love football. But I just wasn't very good at it.
Wow. Okay, we got a whole new perspective about that non-league football. It's actually fun, and people do it out for love of football. My last question is, I just wanted to know about that football culture in England, the system, how a young kid just decides and becomes a footballer, plays for a top-tier club. What are the procedures that he follows, or the system over there in England, and how can we have that kind of a system in India? Because in India as well, there are a few leagues, we have some few tournaments, but the system, the ecosystem, it just kind of lacks, and we're not able to have those kinds of players who can represent us in big teams of world football. So what are the little things that you think are missing in India, and we can have them, copy them, let's say, from the England system of scouting, maybe?
Yeah, the football system in England, it can be quite cruel. It can be brutal. You see kids now of 6, 7-year-old being touted as the next best thing at these Premier League football clubs, and they're trying to grab them at any way they possibly can. The coaching side of the game is getting a lot better in England. A lot of the coaching stuff that is at the younger age groups, they're teaching the kids the rights and wrongs and how to play and the way to play. The facilities are getting better and better for these young kids to play at. A lot of young kids play on the 3G, on the artificial surfaces. So the emphasis is more on being able on technical side, which is a lot better, because if you play on an uneven surface, or you play on pitches which are not the best, then you take all your time trying to control the ball, as opposed to where you're going to pass the ball next, or movements of kids and telling them to get in these positions and move and pass and get and little technical things like that. So I think in England they've got a lot better now at that. I think there's a lot of these 3G surfaces or 4G surfaces, the artificial pitches around, which makes the kid a lot. It makes his development and education in the game a lot quicker, because he thinks quicker, his decision making's quicker, skill level's a lot better, because he's not worried about the ball bobbling in front of him. And then as they get older, they get stronger, they get fitter, and they get better and faster, and the others fall by the wayside. So from that point of view, I think that's what's got better in the game in England. I think the coaching at youth level is getting a lot better, a lot more technical specific as well. And then coaching of the games, the teams have got a lot better. During my upbringings, it was a dad, or it was somebody's family member who was the manager of the team, and basically just watched the strips, sent 11 lads out, and just said kick it anywhere, and the biggest and the strongest go and chase it, and you'll score goals and you'll win matches. Now it's a lot more technical, which is a lot better for younger kids. So from an earlier age, they're learning the basics of the game, which for me is a lot better. And then as they develop and they go up, and the challenge for me now, I think, is to take the kids now from 16 to 19 and work on a system which is rejection, because that is the problem for me in the modern day football. It's not about who makes it; it's the millions that don't make it after they've been promised from 7-year-old that they're gonna earn £1 million a month, they're gonna earn fortunes, they're gonna have the great lifestyle. And then at 16, they're working in a supermarket, having been proper brainwashed, no education to shoot from, because the only thing they've been thinking about is you're going to be a professional footballer. And the morons that have filled their heads full of rubbish of moving on to the next subject. And that for me is abuse. And I think there's a lot of that in English football. And I think that is something that needs to get better. Because I've seen it in the non-league system, where you see these kids get rejected from full-time football clubs. And it only takes a few of them, a year or two to get back into the heads back into playing and then working in the big bad world. But there's a hell of a lot more that don't make it past that, and you end up looking at them and think, you know what, at 15-year-old, you were one of the best players in this country, and at 25-year-old, you are literally on the poverty breadline. And that for me is what's wrong with sometimes the system in England. So that's the dynamics of where English football is at the minute.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, we all were talking about the system in England. We know that they have a very good scouting system, and there are a lot of players coming up. We always hear about the players who make it, but we don't hear about the players who have failed, and there are plenty of them. We do hear about Phil Foden making there, but we don't really hear about the players who cannot be there at the top.
For every Phil Foden, there's 15 others.
Exactly.
And that's 15 others per team, and that's something that probably needs to be addressed a lot better. Don't get me wrong; it's wonderful. These kids get well looked after, they get well rewarded, the parents get looked after. But psychologically, when you talk about mental abuse, that is something I think English football could do with getting a lot better.
I think that's that. I think we have covered all of the questions that we needed to ask. All I now need to do is thank you for being over here, Steve. It was actually a pleasure to have you here and to listen to all of these wonderful things that you just told us about Newcastle, about the system in England. And that was fantastic to talk to you. And we hope that we'll be able to meet you in person someday when you're here in India, or when we are over there someday. We can do up another podcast, or we can have a chat about football. That would be wonderful. So thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. And goodbye.
उनके लिए शायद सुनील छेत्री, गुरप्रीत सिंह संधू, संदेश झिंगन, मेसी, रोनाल्डो के अलावा या मैराडोना, पेले के अलावा और कोई, everybody is a stranger to her. So if I'm talking about a Liston Colasso in Indian football or an Amrinder Singh in Indian football, she'll be like, कौन है ये? तो मैं बताना चाहूंगा कि वो कौन है इससे पहले कि उनका सवाल आए कि ये किसकी बात हो रही है और क्यों.